All right, terrific. I'll call this regular meeting of the Operation Planning Committee for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 to order. Thank you all for coming. Let's go ahead and get started. I've got Seth here actually on my speakerphone in my office. He was having trouble getting into the link. And I see we've got Jim, Tracy, Lori, and Jeremy. Let me see who else is on here. Okay, and others not on video. Okay, all right then. We'll go ahead and get started. I guess I will go ahead and get started myself with a few comments here. Both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education have wrapped up their budget processes, and the Board of Finance is going to start their review with our presentation to those two boards on March 4th. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I'd welcome the chance to take questions ahead of time. So if there's anything that any Board of Finance member wants to know about beforehand, I will certainly be able to provide information and supplement that discussion so that maybe we can come with those questions answered to those through our joint presentation to that board on the 4th. Tonight at the RTM, I'm going to be giving a presentation about town debt, and it's really just a look forward to give everybody some comfort that we have a perspective on where debt could trend for the town. That being particularly important because we have had a lot of school investments lately. We've got the prospect of a renovation at Middlesex on the medium-term horizon, that plus Great Island, just getting everyone a sense of what all that could look like. I've had a chance to collaborate with Jim Palin on that. Jennifer Charneski has helped as well. I've talked to our bond advisor and a lot of other people to try to get a perspective on that. So more to come tonight at 7:30 in the auditorium. In addition, tomorrow I'm testifying online for the legislative committee. So this is the transportation committee in Hartford. They have some legislation that pertains to the expansion of sound barriers along I-95. It's a quality of life issue, just like it is for the quiet zone that we're working on for the Duquesne branch line. So I got a little note that there might be an opportunity to testify. So I registered for that today. I'll coordinate with you, Tracy, on all that and make sure all the messaging's synced up. But I didn't want to lose the chance to not register for that. So I got it about 30 minutes before the deadline closed. So I haven't had a chance to talk to you. So this is new information, but we'll try to be available for that tomorrow. Two of our efforts I've been talking about are now underway. The first one is the payments strategy. We're working with a consultant to try to rationalize how the town takes payments and to get that as close to the 21st century as possible. So the consultant's work starts with their department interviews tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. And our parking effort, we've gotten a detailed proposal as to how we can get rid of hanging tags in all of our town parking lots. And that proposal, it's pretty complete. We're going to have to tweak it a little bit. We're going to have some internal meetings and hopefully get that finalized for a broader review in the next 30 days or so. But I'm excited, and with any luck, this is the last year we will have hanging tags in town parking lots. So more to come on that. And then finally, I just wanted to note the passing of one of our long-serving and beloved department heads. Alicia Sillers was our head of the youth commission and all of our youth activities here in town. And she was simply an amazing human being and will be missed by many. So condolences to her family. But thank you, Alicia, for your many years of service. So that's it from me. Let me turn it over to Jeremy. You're standing in for Steve, who can't make it today, for planning and zoning.
Yes, Steve sends his regards. He wanted me to cover just a few quick things. The first, obviously, is the Town Plan of Conservation and Development. We're in the process of updating the 2016 plan. Hope to have it complete by middle of 2026. The commission has hired H&H, formerly known as Hardesty in Hanover, and the lead from H&H is Neil Desai. I will expect that Neil will reach out to many, if not all of you, over the next few months to get a better understanding of what's going on in town and things that should be included in the town plan. He's had a first kickoff meeting with the commission. The next meeting, John, is Tuesday, March 4th. It's a week from tonight with the commission. And there'll be subsequent meetings where they ask for more public input and feedback. I remember in the last plan, we talked to almost every town department head, Park and Rec. We talked to Dr. Adley, and so there'll be a lot of outreach that way to better understand what the projects the town's working on and where we see the town going forward in a few years. We've put Neil in touch with the Great Island Committee and the consultant Reed Hildebrand as well. Of course, a lot of our time, as John mentioned, is on legislative issues. I was just in a phone call with various planners throughout the state and land use attorneys talking about the very many housing bills that are floating around and the hearings and what's likely to happen, what's not likely to happen. Keep us in the loop, Tracy. I know Steve is very anxious and concerned, and he's testified, I think, once or twice already, and is whatever feedback or input he has, feel free to use him as a resource. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
One quick question, Jeremy. Could you clarify what the opportunity for public input into the POCD process will be? I'd heard that there was going to be some evenings set aside for groups of folks, like the well, this variety of individuals and groups who are clamoring for input. What does that look like, and what's the plan?
We have no certainty on whether a meeting will be at night, in the day. I know that Great Island's having a meeting on a Saturday. Neil is not certain yet. There will be certain groups that he is going to try to meet with, if you will, on their schedule. I know Community Commission on Aging is one. He's going to try to get to one of their meetings. I think PZ&H Committee of the RTM try to get to one of their meetings. As soon as I get a date and time on a public outreach meeting, I'm going to work closely with Marley on getting the word out to the public. We're working with Neil on getting a date, whether that's in April or May, uncertain at this point.
Okay, well, you know the groups we're talking about, and I just want to make sure they have a chance to be at the table to provide their input. So we're going to do that. Okay,
absolutely.
Terrific. All right, Jill.
Thank you. Like you, we just passed our budget, and that does include a study of Middlesex, which you just mentioned, of Middlesex Middle School. So we are hoping by the end of the next fiscal year to have a good sense of what type of work we'd want to do on that building if we were to undertake a larger scale renovation. We do have in our capital budget some minimum dollars for work that we know would need to be done, but we'll be studying it over the next year to see if more work needs to be done. Also included in our budget is, or also something we're watching that's relevant to this year, next year, and the following is funding of excess cost reimbursement dollars for special education. It's our understanding that there's $40 million more to go into the pot for fiscal year 27, along with $10 million for incentives for investment. We are always excited about incentives for investment. I think we're at the point where anything we can do investment wise to bring down longer term costs is valuable. But of course, we also made an adjustment in fiscal year 26, and we're looking at what our final year end numbers would be for 25. So Tracy probably has more information than I do, because I think there was a meeting last night. But I'll just end by saying on this particular topic that we're currently running about a $50,000 deficit, and we did reduce our budget for fiscal year 26 by about $162,000, I think, to accommodate a lower reimbursement rate. So again, there's been some volatility. I think Tracy will update us in a few minutes. Lastly, also in the category of folks that we'll miss, a long-serving government official named Kevin Newman passed away recently, and I will be remembering him in my chair remarks at the Board of Education this evening. A lot of former government officials wrote in to Clara Sartori and Dennis Maroney, who's created a nice tribute. So for those of you who know him, please join me in mourning his loss as well.
Okay, thank you. One question for me, Henley Homes Royal remains on track for you. You're happy with the progress to date?
Yes, we sure are. Remains on budget, on schedule.
Okay, Terrific. Other questions for Jill?
Yeah.
Lori?
Jill, on the Henley Homes Royal, the construction has, as I understand it, limited available fields for youth sports. When the construction projects are done, will there be the same number of fields there were, or will the fields be lost because the footprints are bigger? Do you have any sense of that?
There'll be the same number of fields available.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? Board of Finance, Jim Palin. It looks from the TV we'll be able to get stock picks while we're listening to Jim. So I'm lucky. Just go ahead, Jim.
Hey, good afternoon, all. Hey, so a couple things on Board of Finance. As you and Jill both mentioned, the Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen kind of finished their budgets up, kind of 1 and 3 weeks ago. And so the next part of the process is the formal handover and presentation that will occur next Tuesday, which is March 4th at the Board of Finance meeting. Jill, we've reserved time for both you and John to kind of give us, a kind of 20 to 30 minute overview of your budgets. And we'll have some questions, I'm sure, about your presentation and so forth. And I'll try to organize those ahead of time with my board to kind of get them to you. And then that'll kind of kick off the process. And I'm sure we'll have more questions over the coming 3 to 4 weeks. The second big step in our budget process, as you know, is the following week, which is Tuesday, March 11th, where in room 206 at Town Hall, we will have the official public hearing where we hear from all parties regarding the overall town budget. That includes both of your operating budgets and both of your capital budgets. So that'll be a point where sort of all parties can come and present to our board, and we'll listen to public comment regarding what you both have proposed. And then ultimately that'll culminate with, another 3 to 4 weeks worth of work by our board, I should say, reviewing all the budgets. And the expectation today is that we're planning to vote and set the mill rate on Tuesday, April 8th. But that's always sort of a bit of a tentative date to the extent our board believes we have more work to do or more questions, follow-up information we need from you all. We have the ability to kind of push that date from Tuesday, April 8th out to Thursday, April 10th, because by Darien town statute, we're required to deliver, a final budget approval and mill rate to the town administrator by the third Tuesday in April, which is the 15th. So folks should plan on us voting on the 8th, but if we need more time, we'll certainly take it and move that to the 10th. In terms of other things occupying our board's time, the spring, usually in the first quarter of each year, in March or April is when we go to market with our annual bonding if we need to do so. This year, we're anticipating just under $100 million worth of bonding. Part of it will be to refinance on another short-term basis the second half of the purchase of Great Island. And the other part of it will be to raise the next kind of 45 million or so of the HHR project that'll provide the funding, not all the way through the balance of the project, but through next April or May. So we'll be talking a little bit about that at our, after you guys present your budgets to us next Tuesday, more formally adopting resolutions on the 11th, and we'll plan to go to market, as conditions support in late March or early April.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Jim? Okay, Seth was having trouble with his link, and he's dialed into this speakerphone here in my office. So we're going to see if that works, that you all can hear him. Seth, go ahead.
Cheers, everybody. Tonight we will have our first meeting of the new year for the RTM, a little farther down the road than normal. We're looking forward to John's presentation. And on the desk, and preceding that, Jack Davis will do an update on the budget as it stands now, and we'll also get an update on Great Island from Mark Adeletti, who's our representative. for the Matter Center. And that's pretty much it. Not a lot of big business going on right now. Of course, we have the budget coming up, budget vote on May 12th. The committees of the RTM have been actively engaged in the budget process as it's gone along here. So, although we don't have anything much going on the agenda of the RTM itself, the committees have been actively engaged in the budget process. The Rules Committee is working on updating Appendix B. It's outdated. Some of the descriptions of how the operator are not really up to what we really do, and so we're revising that, and should have something before the RTM here in March. And that's about all. We look forward to hearing it tonight, John. I did send you a note. I don't know if you got it. Maybe some mention of how Great Island relates to the overall funding for other items in the town, education, etc.
Yep, all those things are in the presentation.
You see, I knew they would be.
Well, it'd be a problem if I was talking about total town debt and they weren't, so no worries. All right, I look forward to that. Anyone have questions for Seth? Okay, terrific. Lori, Parks and Rec.
Hello. The commission is, eagerly anticipating the, hold on, sorry, my phone is ringing. Going through the budget processes, we have several major capital project requests included in the budget, which have cleared through the selectmen. So we'll be watching that progress carefully, and want to make sure we answer any questions, Jim, that the Board of Finance may have. I know hopefully the tour was very helpful to your members, but if they have more questions, please reach out to me. Jen Fave and I have been working with Dan Beggs to move the bid documents along for both of the projects. We met yesterday to do some updates to the Weed Beach project based on the feedback from the selectmen, and to get the bid package the way that people were hoping to see it. So Dan was on vacation last week, but he's back now, and we'll be working on that. Feels it'll be probably around April 1st before he'll be able to deliver the bid package to us, though. So it's a bit out, and he thought the pear tree bid package would be somewhat after that. So, I don't know that we're going to have bid numbers before the final RTM votes, which I know we had hoped, but it is not looking that way. Also in the budget, we have dredging for ponds at both Tilley and Cherry Lawn. Each of the ponds have their own issues, resulting in needs for dredging that's been put off for some time. The staff is busy with programming. The registration for spring and summer programs opens up tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and usually the first day there's a real rush of activity as people try to get in and get their desired program. So that's going to be taking a lot of their time. And additionally, with the unfortunate loss of Alicia, the Parks and Rec staff has needed to take over all of the registration for the town camps run by the youth department. So Jen's been trying to get up to speed on that very quickly, which she tells me is a little complicated by the fact that the camps historically were run out of the various elementary schools, but the schools aren't available, so they're all being consolidated, I believe, over at Token Eagle, or they're kind of being run as distinct camps. But anyway, she's so they're out to do that, and then one of our key office members is about to, if has not already gone out on maternity leave. So there's an awful lot going on in the department. So the commission is trying to balance new requests and different things while they're juggling all of that. I think those are really the key things right now.
Okay, terrific. Questions for Lori?
Hey, John, maybe just one thing I know Lori and I were supposed to mention here. We're both on the GIAC committee. This Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m., Reed Hillebrand and the GIAC committee are going to be hosting another focus group where interested parties can come in to town hall. I believe it'll be in the gymnasium, and there'll be different workshops set up and different stations set up where people can kind of learn about different parts of the vision plan and some of the ideas out there. And there'll be staff from Reed Hillebrand there. We'll be able to sort of give input to and ask questions. And at the end of that, there's going to be another survey going out where we continue to ask a lot of our residents what they're looking for on Great Island, and ask them to react to some of the initial ideas that we're working with our consultants to come up with. So again, that's this Saturday, March 1st at 2 p.m.
Yeah, I think, Jim, I'm looking at the flyer. It starts in the auditorium and then moves to the gymnasium, which means the
Okay,
snacks
thanks,
will
Laura.
probably be near the auditorium.
Yeah, that's a great plug, Jim, and I will be there myself. This is pretty important. Anybody who's got an interest in that, please go. Okay, and Tracy from Hartford.
Today I am home, which is nice.
It is kind of nice.
Yeah, so thank you so much. We had a late session last night, and so I didn't go up today. I'm working from home. But the Senate is in session today. So as everybody is probably aware, when the bills come, either the House or the Senate hears them first, and once they pass them, it goes to the other, either House or Senate. So we took on some emergency certification bills on last night. And the reason why we went in particularly was to deal with a certificate of need process for some hospitals that are going through bankruptcy. So that's why we are in for the certificate of need. But since we go in, sometimes a lot of other bills get thrown in there too. But as we know, there's another emergency need right now, and that is with special education. So along with the certificate of need bill, we had three other things. And there were two bills, but in this particular certificate of need bill, we had a car tax. So as you probably realized, last year we changed the car tax, and now we're changing it again. This gives the towns an option to start their depreciation level at 90% of MSRP instead of the 85% default. So that will be up to the town. That is optional. The other thing that we did a town fix on was for the veteran property tax. So when this was passed through, it was supposed to be very clear that it was 100% total disability, but there seemed to be some confusion among towns whether the people utilizing this veterans tax were in fact 100% totally disabled. So this makes it clear that that is what it is to be. And then the last is special education funding. And I will say I'm still waiting to find out if this goes through the Senate. They're still in session right now, but we passed it out last night to provide an extra $40 million in the excess cost grant. So for those listening that don't know, there's two different ways that we fund our education from the state. One is just a calculation per kid. The second one is particularly for special education, and there's a formula that goes, if you pay over and above X amount, then you can submit to the state to get that funding. Jill, I'll let you intervene here. You can say what you put on the book and what you received, if you don't mind.
Well, we were assuming that typically we receive over 70%. So I think we were initially assuming we received about 75%. We reduced it down to 72% and then down to 70%. But what we actually received is below that, and the lowest we've seen in anybody's recent memory. So districts across Connecticut are in something of an uproar. All of the superintendents from this area wrote in to their legislators. All of the board chairs have been working the phone lines, and it causes issues this year, but it also causes issues next year. So in a town like ours that actually does have a reserve fund, it means that not only are we running a deficit this year, but then when we go to budget for the following year, we've had to pull money out of our reserve fund that is not available as we look at our tax strategy going into the subsequent year. But we are a town that's actually lucky to have a reserve fund that is not, and that can pivot when we have to refill our coffers. There are many towns around us where they are cutting staff even at the end of the year. Not many towns around us, but there are towns in Connecticut that have had to cut staff.
Yeah,
And-
thank you. Yeah, no, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody really understood that how important this really is to our towns. This is a volatile number that each of the towns get, and they're just kind of waiting to see where they get their funding back. So this would, we did get some run numbers of what it would do, and if this 40 million goes through, which I expect it will. The only issue we may have is if the governor vetoes it. And then that may be an issue. But this would increase by 503,000. So it would make your percentage go up to 72.8. That's the estimate.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's for which fiscal years, Tracy?
That's for this fiscal year.
That's fiscal year 25.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's correct. This would be directly. So, we just, hopefully the governor doesn't veto it. We put an amendment in to fully fund it. We do know that, our budget is tight, so they said no, but hopefully this goes through.
Thank you.
Yep. And I will, I continue to get emails on our energy prices. I will say that the public hearing keeps being pushed back because we're waiting on the Senate Democrats to finish their bill, SB 4. Our caucus has our bill out. It's SB 647. It's ready to go as soon as the chairs will sign off on it. And we expect that our public hearing will be next Thursday on the 6th. And I imagine that will be a very robust hearing that's particularly looking at the affordability of the energy bill. And housing, correct, we have several bills in housing that I'm watching. The biggest one that came forward was the Work Live Ride, which is the transit oriented bill, and that is that had a big hearing for sure. It's a carrot bill, but really it would deprioritize the town if anybody who has a section that they say that they'll do as of right around the transit systems will get priority for funding. And if you don't, then you get deprioritized. There's a couple of dummy bills in there, and that's something we typically don't like because they could throw anything in a dummy bill. And then the last one is fair share. This partially passed a couple years ago, and we're waiting to find out what the fair share of the towns will be. So when that number comes out from Connecticut, then that will go back through the process as well. We don't really expect that one to come back out though, because they don't have the numbers and they're not going to have them until May. So unless they get popped into a dummy bill at the very end, which stranger things have happened, I'm expecting we won't see fair share this year. And I think, we've got, some bills and environment committee. I know, our town is a very environmentally conscientious, which is great. And we've had some people up writing testimony to stop some of the neonics and put a halt to neonics and rodenticides as well. And we'll see where.
Tracy, any sense of how the fiscal guardrails are faring in the session?
I have a feeling it's going to be a real issue. quite honestly. I don't know what's going to happen with the budget at this point. But even looking at, so like I said, we did 2 bills today. The first one is, what I mentioned was kind of the governor's bill, and it had the CO in, and in the veterans tax and special education funding. The second one had so this was more of a Democrat priority, and it had ICE agents in schools that, I know the schools already have some framework that they need to look at, that if ICE agents come to the schools, how they should react, but this makes it a mandate for them to put something in place. Has some issues around drones, and then the rest of it was funding. So when we talk about like being fiscally conservative, I think we were all really frustrated that we had, almost $3 million of funding that went to a lot of nonprofits that were like Planned Parenthood, a lot. It just doesn't seem like an emergency situation. So I think there's a lot of confusion. It's not that we don't want these things to have funding, but when you come in an emergency situation, when you're already looking at being very careful with your funding, and you've got, many of these already have funding from the state, it's a little confusing why we're coming in as an emergency for funding for several of these. So.
Okay, other questions for Tracy? All right, that does it for today, except for minutes from the January 21st meeting. There were just a couple edits. I noticed one is in Jim's section on the Board of Finance. It should be Selectmen, should following, and then Jill, your section, just the sentence structure is a little off. It just should be after the parenthetical lowercase investments made in technology and the addition of critical personnel, but I've got those edits written up and I can give them to Linda. Did anyone else have any edits to the minutes? Okay, motion to approve the minutes with edits. Okay, Lori moves, Seth seconds, all in favor? Okay. Okay, terrific. Our next, doesn't have our next meeting. So we're all set for today. We will reconvene this group in a month, but I appreciate that. If there's nothing else, could I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, Seth moves, Jill seconds, all in favor, and we stand adjourned. Thank you, friends.